Today I've got 2 tips for new drone pilots. And I know there's a lot more things that you need to know before you go fly a drone, but these are 2 things that, I learned along the way from watching other people or reading about it. And for sure, before you fly a drone for the first time, you should do your research, read everything on the manual, watch your videos or whatever you got to do. But these are 2 things to keep in mind while you're flying your drone to help make your experience better. Number 1, carefully pick out where you're going to launch your drone from. Tell you why. It's always good to find a wide open space. Now, when the drone gets ready to launch, it sets its home point.
The home point has been updated. Please check it on the map.
And if something happens between you and the controller, it's going to return to that home point. Or if you want to bring it back, and you hit the return to home button, it's going to come back and it's going to land on that home point. And it's pretty accurate, where it sets the GPS location, locks on, and they land pretty accurately a lot of times. But sometimes it can be a little off. So pick a spot that has some room for error.
Take off. The home point has been updated. Please check it on the map.
I'll tell you a little story of something that I witnessed one morning here at this park. I arrived early, was getting ready to fly my drone, and I could hear the buzzing of a drone. And I saw a gentleman, and he was flying his drone, and I didn't want to just, launch my drone until let him. I figured I'd just let him do his thing, and I just kind of hung out. And it's kind of interesting because I could hear him talking. Like he must have been doing a live stream or something like that, and I could hear him talking to his audience, and he was just talking about the beautiful area that he's filming, or he's seeing as he's flying his drone, God's beautiful creation, and he's just recording it all and capturing it for him and his audience. When he decided to bring the drone home, of course, he hit the return home button, and the drone came back. Well, he had launched, instead of launching from like a wide open area like this, like the field or the side, or this little grassy area or the sidewalk or even in the parking lot, he decided that he would launch his drone from the dock. Well, as the drone came down, like I said, they pretty accurate, but it was a little bit off, and not realizing the drone was facing him too. And so he tried to correct, but not realizing that when the drone is facing you, the controls are opposite. So if you want to go left, you have to actually go right. If you want to go right, you actually have to go left. And he went the wrong way, hit the rail, the drone flipped over the rail, and then into the water. And of course, he was able to retrieve the drone. He jumped in a panic and lost a shoe. One of his shoes just drifted away, but he was able to recover the drone, but it was totally submerged in water. And what a horrible way to lose your drone. I know maybe he had the DJI refresh. I recommend that. You should get that. But yeah, if he didn't, man, I think he's just out a bunch of money. So that's tip 1. Make sure when you're launching your drone, launch it from a good, safe area where there's room for error. Don't launch from these little narrow paths where there's water on each side, or a little dock or anything like that, where if something happens, it could wreck your drone and you could lose it. That's the last thing you want, and that'll sure run your day for sure. So tip 2 is follow the drone laws. And the drones are so sophisticated, and they got a lot of programming in them, and they will help keep you out of trouble. When you go to launch it, it'll tell you if you're in a restricted airspace, or if you're in what class airspace, how high you can fly. Some of them even will tell you when there's a manned aircraft approaching. So there are a lot of built-in things to keep you out of trouble. Never bypass any of those things. Never fly higher than you're supposed to. Don't fly close to airports. All this stuff. But let me share with you another story of something that happened. There was a gentleman, there's an article that I read, and he had gotten home from work, and it was in the evening, it was dark outside, and there was a fire in his neighborhood. So he decided that he would launch his drone and go record the fire. Now, it's dark outside, so you shouldn't fly your drone at night unless you're in contact with the FAA and get their permission. That is a rule. But he didn't do it. He just wanted to, what harm could come from him flying his drone over there and filming them putting out the fire. What he didn't know is that police had called in a rescue helicopter. And a long story short, his drone ended up in the pilot's lap and caused the pilot to have to make emergency landing, keeping the pilot from completing his life-saving mission. Now, the FAA don't mess around. They went after him with the full extent of the law, made an example out of him successfully, and that poor gentleman, he ended up with, well, I don't know if I should say poor gentleman, but that gentleman ended up sentenced for 9 years in prison, which is a pretty stiff penalty, and I'm sure you don't want to ever get in anything like that. So follow the rules. You know, a lot of things can happen with it. If there's an emergency situation going on, I mean, think about it. With all the news, helicopters and everything like that, the news is, I mean, there's going to be helicopters coming in, and they're in contact with the FAA. They can get permission to fly below 400 feet into your airspace. You should be a responsible pilot too, and if you're going to do anything like that, definitely follow the rules. So yeah, those are 2 tips I think that will keep you out of trouble and help you have a better time flying the drone. You don't lose your drone, don't go to jail flying your drone. I know there are probably a ton of other ones. Hey, if you have some examples or things you want to share or tips that you want to share, make a comment, share them in the comments. And if you know there's some good ones, I'll go back and make another video and share those as well. If you know a new drone pilot, why don't you share this video with them so they can watch it and learn too. So I wish these are things that, you know, we need to talk about in this community so we can keep from having accidents and be responsible drone pilots. Hey, I'm Scott, and this is my journey, and I will see you in the next video.